A number of years ago, I was at a business dinner with about 7 other people at a really nice restaurant. We had a few minutes to take a look at the menu, and then the server comes around to take our order. Now, if you're anything like me, when you find yourself at a nice restaurant, you want to make sure that you order something good, right? Because a lot of things, they sound good when you read them on a menu, but that doesn't mean that they're actually good. And you don't want to make a mistake and order something you're going to regret when you find yourself at a nice restaurant. So I usually like to make a bit of a short list and then ask the server for recommendation. Now, in this particular case, I was the last person to order. And so far, everyone had ordered something a little different from one another off the menu. The server gets to me and he asks me what I want. So I point to the menu and I say, hey, this tenderloin dish looks pretty good. How is it? All of a sudden, the server stops. He puts down his pad, and then he locks eyes with me as though he's about to reveal some kind of deep secret. And then, in a very serious tone, he says, "Oh, sir, it's the best thing on the menu." And then he starts telling me all these stories about the crazy side dishes that come with it, the parsnip mash and the maple syrup reduction. And I was like, sold, I'm having that. But then, something incredible happens. 6 of the other 7 people at the table change their order to that. Now, was it the best thing on the menu? I don't know. I didn't have everything. It was delicious, but for all I know, maybe it was the most expensive thing on the menu, and the server thought he'd get a bigger tip out of it at the end of the meal. Or maybe the chef had over-ordered on the tenderloin and was encouraging the staff to, push it. All I know is that there was a powerful psychological force acting on so many of us at that table in that moment that worked like a light switch, from uncertainty to rapid clarity. And it caused us to make a decision that we otherwise maybe wouldn't have made. But that's not all that surprising, is it? I mean, how many of you have ever bought something that you didn't know you wanted, you didn't think you needed, and then maybe even later regretted? If you did, you're not alone. You know that half of all social media users go onto platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook Marketplace specifically to make impulse purchases? Not surprisingly, 64% of them later wish they hadn't. But those impulse purchases, they are a bit of a two-way street. Because yes, on one hand, by opening up an app or turning on your TV to see an ad, you're putting yourself in a position to buy. But those ads sure do make those products look awfully compelling. And just like the server in the restaurant, they can change your entire decision-making framework in an instant. Because you're watching these ads, and at first you're saying to yourself, I don't need this. And then 30 seconds later, you can't live without it. Right? Uncertainty to rapid clarity. So the question is, what is about these cheesy and sometimes over-the-top ads that are so effective at getting us to open our wallets? Well, the secret lies in this very simple but powerful storytelling formula that triggers these subconscious emotional purchasing forces in our brain. In fact, not only have storytelling-based ads been shown to be twice as effective at generating sales compared to fact-based ads, but social media platforms like TikTok and YouTube actually amplify and prioritize this type of persuasive content because it increases the stickiness on their platform. But the reality is, that same winning formula, you can find it everywhere, from social media platforms to the corporate boardroom. The good news is, you too can harness the incredible conversion power of this storytelling formula to become more persuasive in your everyday life. Whether you're trying to sell a product or service, whether you're a person who's trying to motivate and inspire their team as a leader, or maybe you're just someone trying to win an argument with a friend about where to go for dinner. So let me show you exactly how to do that by breaking down a simple example. Now these days, most social media influencers try to seamlessly weave these stories into their content, which makes them a little bit harder to pick out. But I'm a little old school. So when I think about these types of product pitches, my mind naturally goes to those classic late-night TV infomercials. You know the ones I'm talking about, like the ones that feature that poor soul who can't seem to cut a simple tomato without it exploding everywhere. And why? Only because they're using the dullest knife in existence, all while wearing a beautiful white suit for some reason. Or the impossibly tangled garden hose, the one that causes you endless embarrassment as your neighbors stare in horror at your dry lawn and dead flowers? After watching hundreds of these infomercials, I found that they all use the same remarkably consistent 5-step approach. I call this the pitch formula, P.I.T.C.H. So let me break that formula down for you using the example of those slick kitchen knives I mentioned earlier so you can see what I'm talking about. First, there's the P, the pain revelation. This is where they say something like, has this ever happened to you? Right? The ads begin by revealing a pain or problem you may not be fully aware of. That they don't invent or create these problems, but rather they magnify and put a spotlight on the problems you're already experiencing, like the exploding tomato. The genius here is that before they're selling you the product, they're selling you the problem. Because before they offer any kind of solution, they need you to fully feel your pain. I say, in your own persuasion efforts, you should never skip this step. Before you offer any kind of idea or solution, make sure you highlight the problem that it solves and get the other person to acknowledge that it's something they've experienced. Next, there's the I, the intuitive solution. Well, what you need is a professional, high-end Japanese hardened stainless steel knife. And these ads continue by revealing what appears to be the most logical solution or obvious fix for the problem, the gold standard, if you will, which, in the case of the exploding tomato, would be premium knives that professional chefs use. But this step is all about creating alignment. So by acknowledging the way that your audience has been thinking about solving a problem, or maybe even something they've already tried in order to solve it, you are now on the same page. And that makes it so much easier for you to bring them into your world. But here's where the story takes a turn. This is where they expose the T, the trap of convention. Did you know that premium knives can cost hundreds, even thousands of dollars? This is where they expose the flaws in those traditional approaches. Sure, premium knives exist, but they're way too expensive for most people. So the intuitive solution, while good, has barriers. It's too costly, it's too complex, or it's too inconvenient. And for your audience, this creates cognitive dissonance. So they acknowledge the problem and they see what the intuitive solution would be. But now they see why that solution won't work for them. And that makes them much more open to the suggestion of an alternative solution. But before we even get to the product, this is where they hit you with the C, the conviction statement. Well, we believe that every home chef trying to prepare delicious, nutritious meals for the people they love deserves professional quality tools that don't break the bank. This is where we see the introduction of the belief system behind the product or idea. This isn't about the product's features or benefits. This is about identity and values. So the solution is actually tapping into the type of person you want to be and what you believe about yourself. This would be in the case of the restaurant example I shared earlier, the server saying, well, I believe that the tenderloin is the best thing on the menu. The implication being that if you're the type of person who wants to avoid an ordering mistake, something you're going to regret later, then this is what you should order. So the infomercial isn't just selling you a knife. It's selling you what you really want, which is the transformation into a confident, capable home chef who provides for their family. And finally, they hit you with the H, the hard proof. Watch as our miracle knife cuts through this tin can and then slices this tomato paper thin with no effort at all. This is the dramatic demonstration that seems to validate everything you've seen and heard so far. This is where they present evidence and data so compelling that it silences the audience's inner skeptic. Again, this is not abstract claims or hand-waving. This is data, evidence, things like social proof, reviews, testimonials, and outcomes right before your eyes. So the next time you happen to be in a position where you need to be just a little bit more persuasive, remember the pitch formula. Reveal the pain, name the intuitive solution, expose the trap of convention, share your conviction, and provide hard proof. And the next time you see one of those, oh, but wait, there's more, infomercials, don't laugh or scroll past, because hidden within those silly demonstrations is one of the most powerful persuasion frameworks ever created. Thank you.